Well, good morning. It's the last trading day of July of 2021, and it's on a Friday in the middle of the summer. This is Bill Riley, Riley Private Client, and we're going to talk about several points here that I am starting to see some concerns, especially with the run-up in the markets as far as we come. And then there's some questions I have for the bull market, and we'll go over those. As you well know, we did our webinar last week, I believe it was, and I appreciate everybody that tuned in or recorded it or saw it. It's interesting, when I was talking about China, that was interesting because a few days later, the famous Chinese proletariat, or whatever you want to call them, decided that people were making way too much money over there as being Chinese entrepreneurs, so they started shutting them down, and that caused some real corrections in the Chinese market. So China is something to deal with, and we'll go into that deeper at a later time. So this morning, here's what I want to talk about. We've had a couple of events happen the last few days that made me really start thinking back on my career and where I've been in the markets and what's happened. So what I'm going to propose this morning is 9 questions for the bull market. And this actually comes from a guy I read all the time and talk to him occasionally, Ben Carson. Bull markets are always more fun than bear markets. We all know that. But they can also warp your brain. So here's some 9 questions, and we'll kind of go through these. And then I'm going to do, hopefully get some time to do a blog on this because I want to expound on some of this. What if I'm not as smart as I think I am? A lot of people get real smart when there's a bull market. I know I attend functions, and in fact, I was at one last night that Carolyn put on. And here are the questions I got. What do you think about Bitcoin? Another guy telling me how he was trading options on Robinhood. Well, bull markets make everybody smart. They all think they know what they're doing. But what's kind of interesting to me is, especially when you first meet somebody, they don't really realize who you are and how much experience you have. And I'm not trying to tout my experience. But then when I start asking them questions back about what they're trying to tell me how they're doing things, you can almost see it that, this guy knows more than I do, and maybe I'm not right about this. So, and that happens. So during bull market, it begins to feel like everything you touch turns to gold. Bull markets can make you feel like a genius, just like bear markets can make you feel like an idiot. It's important to remain humble the more markets go your way. I know Warren Buffett has a famous saying that when he wakes up in the morning, he looks at the market and really feels bad because the market's down. He forces himself to go in and start buying. And that's against all rationale, but that's Warren. Can't fault him. Now, when he wakes up in the morning and feels really, really good because it's a bull market, he's looking to where he should trim or where he should take some profits. It works. $87 billion, a simple little process works. Here's another question I have for the bull market. What am I wrong about that currently I believe with certainty? Everybody thinks when they're in the middle of a bull market, especially extended as this one is, this is the easiest game in the world. Look at our friends at Robinhood. Everybody was getting on Robinhood, democratizing investing, going through all this. Well, the stock went public, which I couldn't understand, and now it's down almost 12% today and still dropping because people, I think once they got into it and the analysts started really describing what they thought was Robinhood, was not something they really wanted to invest in. So I'm not 100% certain about too many things when it comes to markets and investing. And that's really the way to be. Always question. Always do your research. Always do what I call the what if happens. This goes back to my little talk I do a lot called the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns. And we have a lot of those today. But there are certain things I'm fairly confident about right now that will likely prove to be wrong in the future. This is just the way markets work. I mean, I can tell you several times in my career when I just thought that was the greatest investment I've ever made. That stock's going to go to the sky. We had all this stuff. And then what happens? It didn't work. Some people think that interest rates will eventually scream higher from here. Others think we may be in the low interest rates for an extended period of time. Does anyone really know? No, we don't know. So we have to think about these things and position our portfolios for both sides. We have to say, okay, what if this happens? What if that happens? Is my portfolio prepared to handle it? Some people are positive. We're in one of the history's greatest bubbles. I heard one last night, that this is the biggest bubble we were ever living through and all these other things. Now, some of his points were valid because I've lived through these things. And he has some very valid points. But the problem is, no one really knows. You cannot predict. You can only observe and react accordingly. Others assume that it's different in many ways, that we're in a different period of time, or this, or that. And really, markets repeat themselves. You can go back in history and look, and what's happening today has already happened before. A little different, but basically the facts are the same. Something you feel strongly about right now is going to look silly in the future. And this is, I don't want to expound and get on my soapbox about Bitcoin, but that one just still doesn't make sense to me. It is important to keep an open mind about what could happen in the markets. And that's the way I manage your portfolios. I'm always looking for the what if this happens, how do I adjust these portfolios or prepare these portfolios for that type of occurrence. Now, will I miss some tops or some big run-ups? More than likely. But my main thing, or my main objective, is not to lose money. If you don't lose money, you got a more opportunity of staying in play. So you have to be careful. Now, number 3, what will look obvious with the benefits of hindsight? I can give you several instances where after something happened, I look back and started analyzing. I said, I should have saw that. I should have realized that. And we all go through that. It seems obvious now that stocks should have rallied furiously following the pandemic crash. Let me tell you something. When that thing hit, nobody was sure what was going to happen. Not even the analysts, not even anybody. As I listened to some of the great academics during that period of time, the smart ones actually came out and said, we really don't know. That's what we have to accept. We haven't seen something like this. We have no baseline to go back and say, when that happened, this happened. And even the last big problem we had, which was the Spanish flu in the turn of the century, the stock market looked nothing like it did today. So how do you do that? And of course, the stock market went higher, even with the people that thought, the game was over. Now, we have close to 300 clients, okay? I had one that bailed, one. Because, the reason you pay an advisor is to keep you from making mistakes. That's the biggest job I have. Unfortunately, the lady sold 2 days prior to the bottom. She would have stayed in. She had a beautiful portfolio. She owned high-quality stuff that responded dramatically when the turnaround came. But, when you decide to get out, you got to decide when to go back in. And that's a very difficult process. So hindsight can have a lot of variance on how you should invest, but you can also learn. In my book, The 40 Years of Investor Mistakes, I wrote in there that one light bulb went off type thing is when I saw that the S&P 500, had dropped to 669. Then I went and looked at where everything really was, what earnings, what was going on, what sectors of the market were still doing well. I said, that is an historic low. And that was on March the 2nd of about 2008, or when it really started crashing. Then in March, the year later, I said, this is a bottom, because there is no way that the valuation of the market compared to where the index is makes any sense at all. Sometimes the best times to invest is when it doesn't make sense, because other people are doing things they shouldn't be doing, and that you take advantage of it. Also, GE was at $6 a share. And when we did the valuations at that time in March, if you broke up the company and sold it off in pieces, it was worth almost $39 a share. Big difference. So that was a buy. And of course, the stock market is higher. A lot of it's because of the stimulus plan. A lot of it's because of that. But the doubling of the stock market in the last 15 months was not on anybody's radar. If anybody tells you that in March of 2020, the market was going to double over the next 15 months, smile, say thank you very much, and run away. Because nobody saw that, okay? Nobody. If the stock market chooses to charge higher, it'll be some hindsight. That's hindsight, because you look back and say, gosh, I should have bought. Gosh, I should have done this. But if the stock market falls, which we could have some corrections here, it will be also obvious hindsight. So you really don't know. It's important to remember that the past is clean. Easy to go back and look. You know, the old thing about armchair quarterbacks, guys that are watching football and say, oh, that's what he should have done. That's the play he should have done. Well, it's easy to look back and say that's what he should have done. But the future is a mess, okay? Especially in today's world. And we have so many things happening that it's very hard to get your arms around it to say, which direction should I go? So here's the next point. It's very important. Do I have a plan or do I have a portfolio? Just because you own a bunch of stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, it makes it a portfolio, not a plan. So you need to look at your portfolios and say, what's my plan if this happens? What do I do? What's my exit strategy? What's my entry strategy? Not just having a bunch of stuff thrown on a statement and say, oh yeah, here's my portfolio, everything's great. You've got to have a plan. There's a huge difference between a portfolio and a plan. A portfolio involves buying securities, funds, and other types of investments. A plan involves creating a decision-making framework to guide your actions. That's where advisors come in, because we develop a plan. Every portfolio that I put together or work on, I have a plan. So here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to invest. Not just, oh my gosh, did you hear about that? Let's buy this. Or, you know, they're going to come out with another new electric car. I need to buy this. Does that really fit in your portfolio? Is it what your objective is? Is it your risk profile? So you got to have a plan. One of the things that I want to kind of go into here is that, are you making good decisions or just getting lucky? Luck really has nothing to do with it. You may be good. You may make some money one year and lose it the next. On my golf bag, I have a little thing stitched on it when I start to pull a club out. A little statement. Luck's got nothing to do with it. At one time I was pretty good at it. Played competitive golf. And an old pro told me that. He said, son, luck has nothing to do with it. It's skill, it's work, it's hitting balls for 2 hours a day. Luck has nothing to do with it. And that's what you got to look at in your portfolio. Just because you got lucky, you may not have it the next year. Now, it's important to be honest with yourself about where your performance is coming from during a bull market. How many people, bought Bitcoin? Let's go back to that one. It ran up to 64,000. They thought they were rich, and within 2 weeks they lost half their money. How do I react during past downturns? Behavior has a great deal on success. Staying the course during this last pandemic, or this last big correction we've had worse than I've seen in mine that quickly, especially when it came out of nowhere. How did you react? Well, the people that knew what their portfolios hold and the ones I constructed owned high quality stocks, because I started moving into those after the Trump run-up. Well, those are the ones that flourished. For example, we had a fairly good position in Clorox, Kimberly-Clark, Amazon. Well, what happened? The whole world changed. A boring stock like Clorox skyrocketed because we all had to keep things clean. So it's important to take inventory of your past behaviors during bull markets and bear markets and see how you did. See, how did I react to that? Did I profit from it or did I lose from it? Number 7, how disciplined is my investment approach? You have to keep discipline in front all the time. You can't say, well, I'll let it run and then I'll turn my discipline on, next 6 months. No, discipline is a day-to-day. Discipline is something you set and you stick with. For example, Benjamin Graham, Intelligent Investor, that's where Warren learned all his stuff, and I've read the book probably 10 times because you still get things out of it, is that price is the success. It's what you pay for something that gives you profits. So you need to be looking at your portfolios and saying, what did I pay for that? And was it right? Was it the right price when I paid for it? And be patient that it does come back to your price. Number 8, is my portfolio durable enough to handle a variety of market environments? And boy, that's a key question here. With the lowest interest rates in history, we're reaching another inflationary spiral. We've got spending out of whack, debt in the country that's growing at a rate that's very concerning to me. And then we have political environment that's not really that good for the markets, if you're wanting to know the truth. So we got a lot of things to deal with here. So when you're looking at your portfolio and you want to do it yourself, then you have to consider all these factors, because that's how you make a successful portfolio. Another thing is this. It's important to remember markets don't always go up. I'm trying to hire some more people here, and some of the advisors, I say, well, when did you get into business? Oh, I got in business in 2010. They've never seen a down market. Oh, they've seen some bumps in the road, but they didn't live through 87 and all the things I've lived through. You got to live through one of those a true bear market before you really realize stocks don't always go up. Okay, and what do you do when that happens? How do you adjust your portfolios? Where do you go? Now, to kind of wrap up here, talked to a number of investors that had no idea what to do during a crash. I said, what is your exit strategy? What is it if we start really going into a slowdown 12, 14 months from now, which we could do? What's your plan? What's your objective? I mean, some of the great football coaches, like the Landrys of the world, Belichick's, if you ask them their game plan, they're going to go into, here's what I'm going to do if this happens. Here's what I'm going to do if this happens. They're looking out and planning for adverse conditions. What happens if I lose Dak and the Cowboys? Unfortunately, I'm not going to go into that with Jerry, but unfortunately, he doesn't plan ahead. Not the greatest guy in the world, from what I understand. Even a subpar plan is better than no plan, really. So it's important to prepare for a wide range of market conditions, both good and bad. Now, let me kind of finish here. Create a new portfolio, because I think that it's time that we, kind of not rest on our laurels, but we've made a lot of accounts are way up. And like I say, markets don't grow to the sky. So I'll be getting that out to you. I'll be talking to you about it, because we need to plan. I mean, I look at where things may be 12 months from now, not next week, next month, or what this is. Incorporating all of the factors that I'm seeing that I'm having to deal with. That doesn't mean you should be out of the market. You just need to be in the right places in the market. That's the key. I'll sign off with that. I enjoy doing this. I hope you take this and listen to it. Share it with your friends. And we are starting to get a following. And we'll be sending some stuff out to you on this new portfolio and my discipline there. And it is a disciplined portfolio. It's probably more disciplined than I've been in years. Because we've got to assume the fact that eventually things change. And that's always my motto in this firm. Markets change, we change. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. And please send me comments. Please send me emails. That'll be on the screen. And the phone number and everything else. So look for my phone call or some mail outs we're going to be doing. And hopefully we can just keep this thing going. I don't see any big crash or anything like that coming. Just some adjustments. So thank you very much.